this is Pastor Melanie and welcome to Pursuit Kids Corner. Hi Pursuit Kids and those of you that are joining us online today. It is so fantastic that we have Easter, and when you kids have Easter you have so much fun searching and looking for the Easter eggs at the Easter egg hunt, but also too you get to have yummy Easter eggs. But what the true meaning of Easter I'm going to tell you about through the resurrection eggs, and there are things in the resurrection eggs that are going to help me to tell that story to you. Ooh, we have the first one, which is the blue egg, and it has the donkey. Now, what are we going to be using the donkey for? Well, let me tell you. The donkey is what Jesus sat on as he rode through the town. And when he rode through the town, the people were so thrilled, and they believed that he was going to be their new king. And they believed that he would bring joy to their lives. So they were so happy that they laid down their cloaks and the palm branches for Jesus. And this was to honor Jesus. Now the next one, is the coins. Now we have 3 coins. Now, not everybody was happy that Jesus was going to be their king. And there were people that were pretending, and there were people that wanted to hurt Jesus. And one of the disciples, called Judas, he went to the people that were going to hurt Jesus. And he said to them that if they gave him 30 silver coins, that he would help them catch Jesus. What's in the next one? Ooh, the next one is the cup. Now with this cup, Jesus had invited the 12 disciples to come for a very special dinner, and they were really close to Jesus. And during the meal, Jesus stood up and he held up the cup, and he said that this cup is the juice that is representing Jesus' blood that was shed for everybody on the cross. And he asked everybody to drink of it and to remember him and to remember the blood that he shed for not only them, but everybody. What's in this one? Ooh, the praying hands. Now, after the special dinner that Jesus had, Jesus went and took the disciples to the garden. And when the disciples went to the garden, Jesus asked them to stay in another side. And Jesus went to somewhere else where he was praying to God, because Jesus knew that he was going to be hurt, and he knew that he was going to feel pain. And Jesus prayed to God, and Jesus said, Lord, you can do all things. You can do all things. But nevertheless, take this cup from me. Because he knew that he was going to be hurt. But he also said, nevertheless, God, I want to do what you want me to do, not what I want to do. Ooh. Now the whip. Now Jesus, after he was praying, the men who wanted to hurt him came and they got him and they took him and they presented him to their ruler, and he was whipped and blood was shed. Now Jesus was in pain and he was hurt, and the men did this because they didn't want to lose power, because they knew that when the people believed that Jesus was the Son of God, that they would follow him and only him. Oh, a rooster. Now you might be saying, what has the rooster got to do with the true meaning of Easter? Well, let me explain to you. One of the disciples, Peter, who was the closest to Jesus, he said to Jesus that he would be loyal, that he would stand beside him no matter how dangerous it got, that Jesus could rely on him not to ever deny him. And he knew that Peter was lying. And he said to Peter that he will deny him 3 times before the crow crows twice. And Peter was really sad. He really didn't believe him. But what had happened was the people that hurt Jesus really badly, you know, they could hurt Peter too. And this got him really scared and afraid. And what happened was that he denied Jesus and pretended that he didn't know Jesus. And when he thought about that, he realized that he did do as Jesus said, and this made him so sad that he ran away and he cried. Now this is the crown of thorns. After Jesus was whipped, the soldiers got the crown of thorns, and they made it. How they made the crown of thorns was that they got the branches that were thorny. They twisted them around like a crown and they shoved it on Jesus. And this really hurt Jesus. And he bled again. Now Jesus, he is the Son of God, and he could have stopped the soldiers from placing this on his head, but he didn't, because he was being punished. And he was being punished and taking all of the wrong that everybody had done, you and me, to show us that he loves us. And so that's why he didn't do anything. What is this? Okay. Now these are the smaller nails, the smaller version of what was used on Jesus. What would happen was that the soldiers took him to a hill outside of the city, and they nailed him. They used bigger nails and they nailed him to the cross. Now Jesus was stronger than the soldiers, and no man could hurt him, but he allowed the soldiers to do this. And you might be asking, why? Well, Jesus had suffered so that we could live, and Jesus chose to suffer for us. And in doing so, he also obeyed God, because God loved us so much. So God knew that Jesus was going to be hurt and punished, but he did this because he loves us. And even Jesus knew the pain that he was going to go through, but he chose to do this because of the love that he had for us. Now the spear. Now, there were 2 other robbers that were beside Jesus, and just like Jesus, they were placed on the cross. Now the soldiers came past and they wanted to check on the 3 men that were on the cross. But when they come to check, Jesus had passed, and they wanted to make sure, so they got the spear and they pierced him in the side. Now just remember that Jesus died, and he chose to die for you. And yes, this is sad, but there's some good news to come. Oop. There's the linen cloth. Now Joseph was one of the disciples, and he wanted to bury Jesus, and he knew that he would get in trouble, but he still went and asked the soldiers. Now he grabbed Jesus's body and he wrapped it up with the linen cloth, and he made a tomb, which was a shallow cave used out of rock. And when he had buried Jesus in the tomb, Joseph had walked away, and he was very sad because Jesus had passed. Now this represents the stone that was pulled across Jesus' tomb. It's not as big, obviously, as the stone that was at the tomb. The stone that was at the tomb was as heavy as a car. But what had happened is that there were special soldiers that had to guard Jesus' tomb. when he died. Now, what had happened is that these soldiers were no match for the angel of God. And the angel of God had so much strength that he was able to roll the stone away from the tomb. And these special guards, the soldiers, were so shocked and afraid that they fainted. How did the angel of God get his strength? That was from God. This is my favourite part. And there's nothing in this one. That is because Jesus has risen. There was two ladies that went beside the tomb and they were looking and they were wondering where Jesus was, and they were surprised because when they went in there, there was no Jesus. His body was no longer there. And the angel of God came to them and he said to them, "Don't be afraid. It's okay. Jesus has risen. He is alive." And this is why Jesus had that special dinner with his disciple, his closest friends, because he wanted to let them know that he is the promise, that when he rises again, that everybody that believes in him will also rise again and live forever. Now that is the true story of Easter. And I want to leave with you a scripture from John 3:16. That God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever shall believe in him shall have everlasting life. That is the true story of Easter. Happy Easter, everybody. Happy Easter, Pursuit Kids and the kids that are joining us online. Bye. Tune in next week for Pursuit Kids Corner. We cannot wait to see you then. See you soon.